crisis that the national politics was pushed into since the dissolution of the lower house seems prolonged and unending. All eyes are on the Supreme Court that received more than a dozen writs challenging the government move. The apex court meanwhile has forwarded all the writs to the constitutional bench that will now dwell on the legitimacy of the government's decision. Good morning, I'm Sarah Sapsanama and these are the headlines of the hour. The Supreme Court refuses to hand an interim order against the dissolution of the House of Representatives. All the writ petitions referred to the constitutional bench. The Pushpa Kamal Dahal faction picks Dahal as the new parliamentary party leader. Oli faction calls leaders and cadres of all the 7 provinces for a gathering. UK Health Secretary Matt Hancock says the country has detected 2 cases of new variant of coronavirus. And Manchester United blank Everton 2-0 to advance into the semi-finals of the League Cup. Edison Cavani and Anthony Martial on the score sheet. The Supreme Court has refused to hand an interim order against the dissolution of the House of Representatives. Chief Justice Cholendra Samsher Rana referred all the writ petitions against the dissolution of the House of Representatives to the Constitutional Bench yesterday. The single bench of Chief Justice Cholendra Samsher Rana heard 12 writ petitions yesterday and referred all of them to the Constitutional Bench. During the bench hearings, senior advocates Krishna Prasad Bhandari, Harihar Dahal, Sambhu Thapa and Govinda Bandi, among others, had demanded for an interim order, saying that the dissolution of the lower house was unconstitutional. However, Chief Justice Rana ordered to send the writ petitions to the Constitutional Bench, citing the need of detailed interpretation of Clause 7 of Article 76 of the Constitution, which was considered as the basis for dissolving the lower house. The 5-member Constitutional Bench is chaired by the Chief Justice himself. A total of 13 writ petitions had been filed at the Supreme Court against the dissolution of the lower house. Chief Justice Rana fixed 12 writ petitions at his own bench yesterday, while hearing of 1 writ petition has already been fixed at the Constitutional Bench for tomorrow. With yesterday's order, the hearing of all the writ petitions will now take place at the Constitutional Bench. President Vidya Devi Bhandari had dissolved the House of Representatives on Sunday at the recommendation of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. The Pushpa Kamal Dahal faction and Madhav Kumar Nepal-led faction of the Nepal Communist Party has ousted Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli from the post of parliamentary party leader. The meeting of the lawmakers of the dissolved House of Representatives held at the Parliament House in capital's Baneshore yesterday picked Executive Chairman Pushpa Kamal Dahal as the new parliamentary party leader. The faction informed that Premier Oli was removed from the post as he had moved ahead by violating the party system and the constitutional process. The Central Committee meeting of the Dahal Nepal faction had decided to remove Prime Minister Oli from the post of chairman on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the faction submitted a letter at the Election Commission yesterday seeking official recognition. Leaders Surendra Pandey, Leelamani Pokhrel, Mukti Pradhan, among other leaders, submitted the documents at the Election Commission regarding the action taken against Premier Oli and seeking official recognition, along with the signatures of 2/3 of the Central Committee members. The faction has even claimed for the election symbol. According to leader Pokhrel, the faction submitted all the necessary documents to justify their plea and argued that their decisions are official as they hold more than 2/3 majority at the Central Committee. Meanwhile, the Oli-led faction has given training to its newly appointed Central Committee members. Moving on, the faction led by Chairman of Nepal Communist Party and Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has accepted that the party is on the verge of a split. The faction, during the gathering of leaders and cadres from all the 7 provinces associated with them, blamed the modus operandi of Executive Chairman Pushpa Kamal Dahal and Senior Leader Madhav Kumar Nepal for the division of the party. The faction had directed leaders and cadres available in the capital to attend the meeting mandatorily. Leaders addressing the gathering came down heavily on Executive Chairman Dahal and Senior Leader Nepal. The faction named province-wise coordinators to facilitate trainings to the newly appointed members and the Central Committee. The faction had added 556 new Central Committee members and announced the 1,199-member General Convention Organizing Committee on Tuesday. The ruling Nepal Communist Party's possibility of officially splitting following the dissolution of the lower house has affected governments in 6 provinces. All the provincial governments except that of Province 2 have a majority government of the ruling Nepal Communist Party. Now, with the possibility of the party heading towards an official split, massive changes are expected.
The position of Chief Minister of Lumini Province, Sankar Pokhrel, who is close to Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, has been uncertain with the possibility of the ruling Nepal Communist Party's official split. The 87-member Provincial Assembly has 61 lawmakers from the Nepal Communist Party. This includes 32 from the Oli faction and 29 from the Dahal faction. A faction will need 44 votes to run the provincial government. With the number of leaders changing their sides following the recent development, it is uncertain which among the 2 factions will lead the provincial government. Meanwhile, both the factions have hinted at taking the opposition Nepali Congress to their side. The scenario is no different for Chief Minister of Gandaki Province, Prithvi Subba Gurung. 27 of the 40 members from the Nepal Communist Party at the Provincial Assembly are from the Oli faction, while 13 are from the Dahal faction. In Gandaki Province, a faction will need 31 votes to lead the government. Elsewhere, Chief Minister of Bagmati Province, Dormani Paudel, who is from the Oli faction, is certain to fall in minority now, as 46 of the 110 members at the Provincial Assembly are from the Dahal faction. 56 votes are required to form the Bagmati Province government. 33 out of the 40 members in Province 1, Karnali Province and Sudur Paschim Province are from the Nepal Communist Party. This includes 14 from the Oli faction, while 19 are from the Dahal faction. Meanwhile, lawmakers from the Dahal faction in Province 1 have already prepared for a no-confidence motion against Chief Minister Sherdhan Rai. 67 of the 93 members are from the Nepal Communist Party, including 45 from the Dahal faction and 22 from the Oli faction. Sudur Paschim Province has been divided as well, as influential leaders Bhim Raol and Lekhraj Bhatta have sided on opposite factions. Here, 39 out of the 53 lawmakers are from the Nepal Communist Party, including 34 from the Dahal faction and 5 from the Oli faction. The Dahal faction seems strong in Province 2, having 19 of the 32 lawmakers on its side. However, the provincial government is unlikely to change as Janata Samajwadi Party heads the government.
In our Public Voice segment, we had asked locals in Sunsari why have local representatives not been accountable to the public. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
आफूले टिकट पाउँदाको रकम कसरी असुल गर्ने र आफूलाई कसरी अन्य टिकट अन्य चुनावहरुमा चाहिँ आफूलाई बलियो आर्थिक रूपमा बलियो बनाउन जाने भन्ने हिसाबले चाहिँ गइरहेको जस्तो हामीले महसुस गरिरहेछौं।
क्षमताको अभाव पनि एउटा हो, कार्यको कुशलता पनि उहाँहरुसँग भएन, नभइसकेपछि उहाँहरुलाई काम गर्ने एउटा तरिका तौर तरिका पनि नपुगेपछि उहाँहरु आफै नै अलमल्लिएको अवस्था रह्यो।
उनीहरु पनि जनताप्रति टाढा भएको र जनताहरुले पनि काम लिन नसकिरहेको अवस्था छ।
पहिलोचोटि अभ्यास गरेको हुनाले अनुभव बटुल्दै जाने क्रममा केही कमी त्रुटिहरु पनि भएको हुन सक्छ।
जनताका लागि भन्दा पनि व्यक्तिगत स्वार्थका लागि चाहिँ अघि बढेको हुन् कि जस्तो मलाई चाहिँ लागिरहेको छ।
हाम्रो केन्द्रीय शासन प्रणालीमै नै कमजोरीको कारणले गर्दा यस्तो भएको जस्तो लाग्छ।
जनतासँग समन्वय गरेर भिजेर जनताको माझमा कन्स्ट्रक्सन मात्रै तपाईको अहिलेको स्थानीय सरकारको यो के रे विकासको प्रक्रिया होइन भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ उनीहरुले राम्रोसँग बुझिदिनु पर्छ।
Time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion. The question is, what is the reason for the delay in constructing a dry port in the capital? Your options are A. Locals obstruction, B. Government units making excuses, and C. Usual trend. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Have a great day ahead.